Eyes are definitely one of my favorite things to draw, from the sketching process to colors. Through the years, I kind of developed a routine to draw them and a style because I wanted them to have a big visual impact in my drawings. We can express our feelings through eyes, so every little detail matters in my opinion. So today I'm gonna show you in depth how I color and render eyes in my style and how I create all the light effects you see in all my pieces. So let's jump right into it. So I prepared a base sketch we can work on today, and first thing first, we are going to create a new layer below our line art. This will be the base color for our iris, and let's go for a green today. I like to use a sharp round brush to do this, but try to keep the iris a little softer on the edges, just like this. Don't overthink it too much. Perfect! Now it's time for shading. Create a new layer above the base color of the iris, tap on it and select Clipping Mask. This will link it to the iris, and whatever we do in this layer will stay within the border of our base color. Pick up a soft brush and a darker shade. You can play around with values here, we are giving depth and dimension to the eye. And I'm gonna start shading the upper part, stopping right around the center. Now let's grab a sharper round brush and let's create all the little details for our iris. I like to draw a nice circle all around it. Again, don't overthink it too much, it doesn't have to be extremely precise and perfect. At this stage, I will also place the pupil in the middle and all the little details and particles inside. This is way easier to show you than explaining it to you. Okay, now we have our base shading ready and we can make it as deep as we want. In this case, I'm going to make the top part a little bit darker, so I'm gonna grab a darker shade of green. You can even go with black for this part, and let's make it even deeper. This is very important for me because it makes the eye very three-dimensional, especially when it's paired with our next steps, so you'll see in a minute. And as you can see now, I am also darkening the lower part of the pupil. Alright, it's time for highlights now. I'm gonna create a new layer and I'm gonna clip it to the base as I did with the previous one, and I'm gonna set this one to add. This will make the colors very luminous. I really like how it looks. To minimize the amount of layers we use, I'm gonna work on a precise order for this part because we need to play around with the eraser a lot, so just follow my steps. I pick a bluish color for this light flare, but you feel free to adjust the shade depending on your environment light. And now let's pick up a soft brush for your eraser and softly go over it. We want this light flare to be almost invisible. And still using the eraser, I'm now going to create a mirroring effect / shading of the upper lashes. Let's move on to our next highlight now. I'll use a light green this time, following the original eye color value. No rules here, use whatever color you prefer. You can even pair two different shades together. And I'm going to start adding all our little specks and details. Just make sure you don't go over the dark circle border we created, otherwise it's gonna look kind of flat. Actually, I am almost going to highlight that. Just pretend it's almost a wall that the light will hit. You can really play around with different brushes here and experiment and create your own way of doing this. The highlights we just placed pretty much lay on the inside of the iris. That is why we need to keep in mind where our light source is and placing them on the opposite side. Imagine the lens flare effect of a camera, it's the same principle. This will give a lot of dimension to the eye. I know it sounds silly and maybe it's a little detail, but trust me, it really makes a difference. And now I'm going to intensify the highlights a little bit on the center and on the bottom part. Another light flare I like to add is right over the pupil, and I'm going to make this one a little bit translucent by erasing it, just like I did with the upper light flare. I always change this one though, sometimes I make it more intense, sometimes I make it less intense, it's just depending how I feel. I'm gonna create a new layer now, set it to add and clip it to the base, just like we did before. And this time I'm gonna create a big light flare at the bottom part of the eye. Don't worry, we're gonna erase it now. This one needs to be barely visible. Okay, now it's time for the fun part. Let's create a new layer, set it to add, same drill as before. No need to clip this one though, and I'm gonna create our main highlight. Perfect. Now go to Adjustment, Chromatic Aberration, set it on Displace, and this will create a nice prismatic effect. As you can see, I am putting it towards the elongated part of the highlight. Not too much, just a little bit. We want it to be barely visible. And then let's go again to Adjustments, Motion Blur, and following the same angle we used for the Chromatic Aberration, we're gonna blur it a tiny bit. And this is definitely my favorite effect. I think it's super nice. And we're pretty much done with the iris. And now I'm gonna show you how to create and incorporate this shading to the eyeball too. But first we need to color it in because I forgot. Perfect. Now that we have that ready, we are gonna work again on clipping layers, and this will be our base color, just as we did for the iris. So let's create a new layer, clip it, and I'm gonna pick a dark, almost black color, and I'm gonna start creating our first shading. As you can see, I am following the big round light flare on the bottom part of the iris, and this is very important because it creates the continuity we need. We don't want the iris to be separated from the white part of the eye because it makes it look weird. This way it's gonna be very cohesive. I will color the inner corner too very quickly now so you can see the entire final effect. Alright, so this is optional, but I'm gonna create another layer to add some additional highlights here and there. And normally I would use this layer to add highlights all around my artwork, but of course we only have an eye on this canvas today, so let's do this. And we're done! Finally! I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was very requested, so I hope you learned something today and found some inspiration for your own artworks. And if you want to recreate your own version of it, please tag me so I can see it. I would love to. And now it's 5 AM and I really need to go to bed. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on my next video. Bye bye!